Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this very important session, Cultivating Culture and Climate, Recruitment and Hiring. And of course, recruitment and hiring have long been long-standing, significant issues in all of higher education, college athletics, and certainly in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. The association has demonstrated its commitment to fair hiring practices in several forms over the past years. The first one I'll mention is the presidential pledge, where presidents and chancellors at NCAA member colleges and universities have been encouraged to sign committing their schools to achieving ethnic and racial diversity and gender equity in college sports hiring practices. The pledge was developed out of a membership concern for low representation of racial and ethnic minorities and women in coaching and athletics administration at all levels. It has received widespread support among the top governing bodies in each division, as well as the NCAA Board of Governors, whose 16 presidents and chancellors were among the first signatories. In addition to the presidential pledge, more recently, the Board of Governors Committee to Promote Cultural Diversity and Equity endorsed the West Coast Conference's Bill Russell Rule, which requires each school, when they have athletic director positions, head coaching positions, senior administrators, to ensure that they have at least one person from an underrepresented population in the final pool. And we look forward to hearing more about that. And so now we're going to have two groups of panelists, and we'll start with the first group. And I'm going to introduce them. First, we have Dr. China Jude, who serves as the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Denver Broncos. And this is a newly created role for the organization. Dr. Jude works closely with football, business, and community leadership on diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. She has more than 23 years of intercollegiate athletic administration experience, as well as coaching, and she served on numerous NCAA committees. Next, we have West Coast Conference Commissioner Gloria Navarez, who is one of 10 women conference commissioners currently serving in Division I athletics and is the first Latin American to ascend to the commissioner's chair in Division I. Under her leadership, the WCC became the first Division I conference to adopt a diversity hiring initiative, again, the groundbreaking Russell Rule that I mentioned earlier. And then last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Ed Scott, who is in his fourth year as the Director of Athletics at Morgan State University. Dr. Scott has over 17 years as an athletics administrator and served as a Senior Associate Director of Athletics at George Washington and Binghamton Universities, while spending time at the University of Louisville and his alma mater, the University of Albany. So welcome to all of you. And I'm going to jump right into the questions and starting with the first one. What role does culture have in diverse hiring? And do you believe culture is a consideration of diverse hiring efforts? And we'll start with China, and then we'll go to Ed, followed by Gloria.
Well, hello, everyone, and thanks, Dr. Gregg, for moderating this panel. So I wanted to make sure we're all in the same utilizing the same term when it comes to culture. And so I see culture being an underlying value, social norms, traditions, ways to navigate through the space that individuals are working in. And so cultural diversity is a workplace and result of practices, values, traditions, and beliefs. So, and focusing on a lot of issues of race, ethnicity, age, religion, gender, etc. So I do feel that culture does play a difference when it comes to diverse hiring. If we want to create a culture of inclusion, which will also result in belonging, with the hopes of belonging, then it is very important for hiring managers to be mindful to have practices and strategies when it comes to creating pipelines of diversity. The question in regards to do I believe that culture is considered in that diverse hiring efforts? For the most part, yes. We must always take the consideration of the culture. However, if there needs to be a shift or a change of the culture, then hiring managers need to create those strategies and practices to reflect that you're looking for a particular change. And so everything is going to be varied on if you're creating the existing culture versus if you're looking for a change of the culture.
Thanks, China, and thanks, Dr. Gregg, for having us on. I'm excited to be on with China and Gloria, two people I know very well and who are very versed in this space. I agree with everything China said. I mean, culture is the norms, it's the habits, it's the stories we tell about our organization. Culture lives on beyond the people, right? People come and go, but the culture often is maintained in an organization. And so I absolutely believe that it drives hiring efforts, and it impacts hiring in two ways. It either enhances or it inhibits, right? And China, I believe, was alluding to this with the second part of her answer, that when we look at jobs as people of color from diverse backgrounds, one of the things that we want to know is, what is the culture of that organization? Will they accept me? Will I feel like I belong? Will they acknowledge my contributions, right? Am I at the table, or am I a part of the decision making that goes on at the table? And so I think the other piece about culture that I just like to talk about briefly and how it impacts diversity and hiring before Gloria goes is that we often have to look past race and gender, and we have to look at things that are below the surface. Educational experience, right? Military background, socioeconomic status. I think these are all contributing factors that go into the culture that either inhibits or enhances the ability to hire diverse people.
I couldn't agree more with Doctors Jude and Scott, who went before me, and culture is a really important question. When I started at the WCC about 3 years ago, we have the small private schools on the West Coast. We're in some of the most diverse cities in the world, let alone the U.S. But our athletic departments tend to be a little bit smaller. We average around, 3,500 to 5,000 in enrollment, with the exception of BYU. And we don't see a lot of churn in our departments, which is great for our athletic culture. But we also have not grown as far as diversity in our athletic departments to match that of either our campuses or our geographic regions. So everything, you two were saying about culture, I think, we pride ourselves on in the WCC, but when you look at our demographics, they weren't signaling to the market that we have that culture. And so if you allow me, I would like to share a little bit more information about the Russell Rule that we just adopted in our league. I brought just 2 slides to talk about it for a second. Bill Russell, alum of USF, became the namesake of this rule because not only was he the first African-American coach of any professional league of basketball, but of any professional league anywhere. And he's just been a social justice advocate and a trailblazer his whole career. The fact that he was alum was a great coincidence because probably would have wanted to name this after him, regardless of the league affiliation. But after the murder of George Floyd, we had our league meetings, and all of our institutions, we just cleared the deck for about an hour and talked about social justice issues, and everybody really believed, look, we're all putting out these great statements, but we need to do something that creates lasting and meaningful change in athletics. And that's when we started talking about a hiring commitment. And what we came up with ultimately was the Russell Rule. And basically, this applies to any athletic director, senior staff, head coach, or full-time assistant coach that is hired in every team that is sponsored at the school, whether it's a WCC sport or not. So that's what the hiring commitment applies to. But what is it exactly? It's a commitment to ensure that the final candidate pool has an applicant of at least one member of an unrepresented community. And that's intentionally broad because we spent a lot of time talking about how, women coaching men's teams in college athletics is a very underrepresented group in this space. We have we have a lot of schools that have a religious mission to their founding. And so religious diversity could also satisfy this rule. But and across different sports, not one size fits all. Sometimes it's ethnic diversity, sometimes it's gender diversity. So we intentionally made it broad. And then we are collecting information between May 1 and April 30th of every year. And so, a lot of folks working at public schools think, oh, that's great. If you're private schools, we'll never be able to do that in a public school. We have two exceptions. One, if you don't go to market and you just elevate an internal candidate, because to culture, consistency, especially in sports team, can be a very good thing. And then if you do have a final candidate invited to be in that final interview pool session, whatever it is, and they voluntarily pull themselves out, you would still satisfy the policy. So behind the scenes, we have three different pieces to the Russell Rule that I think could, any institution or entity could pick apart in piece. We have the hiring report that is actually a comprehensive report of whether or not you met the policy. And that information comes to the conference office, and it's only seen by the presidents, and that's how schools are judged whether or not they met the hiring policy. We also have the public-facing report card. We partnered with the Tides Institute and Dr. Richard Lapchek to do those report cards that they do on pretty much all the major sports entities. And that includes all full-time staff members. And that's a demographic snapshot of where we are at any one time. So that's just kind of who we are at a point in time. And then, in addition to the presidential review of the hiring accountability piece, we have a public version of the report card. It's a little bit narrower band of hires. It's athletic directors, head coaches, and assistants in men's and women's basketball, largely because, we want to give ourselves time to grow into this policy and really reap the benefits of what we hope to be great change. But also, we know that these are the high-profile positions that the public and the media would hold us accountable for, and we just wanted to be transparent with those to begin with. So that's just kind of an overview of what we have as far as a Russell Rule to answer the question of how do we change. I think we have a strong culture. How do we change and really be deliberate about the hiring practices to signal to the market that we're serious about diversity and inclusion?
And thanks, Gloria. And the BOG has endorsed the Russell Rule and is encouraging other conferences to use it as a best practice, even if it can't adopt the rule per se like your conference did. So that's fantastic. I'm going to move to question 2 and starting with you, Ed. What steps can athletic departments take in changing culture to impact diverse hiring positively?
Yeah, in the interest of brevity, there's 2 things that come to mind right away. Number 1 is integrity. And by integrity, I mean matching your words with your deeds. It's one thing to say you believe in diversity. It's another thing to go out and hire diversity and include that in your organization. And the second thing, more practical, is attributes. It's interesting when, as an AD now, and China has been in the seat, and Derek, you've been in the seat as well. When I'm working with staffers who are growing, right, within my department, one of the things we talk about is don't hire for skill sets, hire for attributes. Attributes are different, right? I can teach somebody how to fundraise, but when we're talking about open-mindedness, resilience, persistence, right? Those are key attributes that if we're looking for those attributes, it doesn't matter if the person is black, white, in between, female, what their sexual orientation is, because we're bringing the person into our organization because of the attributes that they have inside of them. And I think that allows us to not look so much at physical characteristics when we're making hires. It allows us to really look beyond the surface.
And thank you. And Gloria, let's hear from you, and then we're going to go to China.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Ed said. I would add that, being deliberate in thinking about the hiring process, which is hopefully what our Russell Rule is going to achieve, but reaching outside the scope of your kind of normal, what we used to call Rolodexes, nowadays would be more like, your contact list, but really thinking outside of what maybe the job description says, but much like the good to great, like let's find the right person to sit on the bus and then craft a seat on the bus for that person.
And I see it as senior leadership led, the engagement once individuals are making that particular commitment, and self-enforcement and accountability. I was hired for the Denver Broncos to create systems and creating pipelines, and to have a little bit more of a formal process. So Gloria, you're on the Russell rule. For us in the league, it's the Rooney rule, and there's some similarities based upon your presentation. So I really appreciate you showing that. And so we're trying to create those processes to make sure that we are enforcing ourselves and making sure that everyone is engaged in the process. So for an example, I put a policy in place where hiring managers need to show me at least a minimum of 3 postings that target underrepresented demographics, and they must show it. So they must post it, must show it before they can move on to the next stage of the interviewing process. It gives the hiring manager the opportunity to be more engaged and learning more about different organizations like Women Leaders in College Sports or MOA and other organizations. So they are educating themselves, and it is a more of a transformative learning experience as opposed to transactional to check the box and say, we did what we were supposed to do. Now they're taking it upon themselves and learning. So I think that self-enforcement and accountability is going to make a significant difference.
There are many conversations around the importance of recruiting and hiring individuals, and we've been talking a lot about that, but you also have to retain them, and that's difficult. So how does culture impact the retention of employees from racially, ethnic, diverse backgrounds? And so, Ed, I'd like you to elaborate on that, please.
Thanks, Dr. Gregg, for throwing that one at me. I appreciate it. I think it's everything. Retention for me at Morgan State, at an HBCU with limited resources, a historically Black college and university, is really everything. If I'm not able to retain quality people, then it's really going to impact the culture of my organization. And from a diversity standpoint, the first hire that I ever made as an athletic director almost 5 years ago was a Caucasian gentleman. And folks looked at me like I was crazy when I took over an HBCU. But the reason that I did it is because the gentleman had everything we needed for that position. And now he's been a superstar. And folks look at me and say, what are we going to do to keep him? We can't lose him, right? So you have to fight that initial battle in those conversations and be willing to stand on your own too, to make that difficult decision. Because what happens is when you hire a diverse workforce, you're normally more productive. And so then the retention piece is a natural byproduct of that, because you don't want to lose good quality people. On the other side of that, when they do well, it's incumbent upon us to prepare them for the next opportunities so we can grow more diverse leaders like MOA does and like Women Leaders does as well.
Can anyone share a list of organizations where they do post positions to widen the diversity or attract more diversity in your candidate pool?
Yeah. I'll jump on that one. And that's what we did. We created, to help the hiring managers here in my organization, we created a very long list, and it's a living document of various organizations, job boards, etc., where we can post. So what I can do is I can send you an email, or if anybody wants to email me, and I can forward that list. And what the best part about this list is when hiring managers are getting involved and engaged, because initially it was, I don't know where to post. Now it's, hey, I did some research and I found some great places on women in data science or Asian American accountants, and, it's just different things like that. And we're all learning and growing, so it's a shared document. So I do have that, and I'm more than willing to share that.
Did your institutions get any resistance from their individual HR offices resisting specific identity of candidates and ultimately finalists?
That's a really good question. And we did have a lot of HR input during the process. And there was concern about when candidates do not identify or, if they don't collect that information. So we really, in our hiring report form, the private one that's only seen by the presidents, you can have an explanation box. So if your final candidate doesn't identify until maybe after they get hired or they never do, you can add anecdotal information of what you did to try to diversify and why you thought it was diverse. And then ultimately the president decides if your efforts were enough to meet the policy.
And this one asks, here's another question. Will the NCAA look at implementing the Russell Rule or just strongly advising? Also, what is the level of accountability within the WCC for schools who don't follow or meet the Russell Rule goals? And I'll start with, and I think most people know that the NCAA itself, it would be hard to pass a rule that across the board that similar to the WCC's rule because of all the different employment laws, state laws. And so that's why, starting with the CPCBE, really wanting to endorse the Russell Rule, even if we can't right now pass it officially throughout the entire membership. And then the Board of Governors encouraging everyone else to endorse it and also use it as a best practice, because just because you may not be able to have a rule per se in your conference or at your institution, that does not mean that you can't use it as a best practice and still use all of the elements within the rule to create these diverse candidate pools. And then I'll let Gloria address the second piece to that.
So accountability was really important to us when talking about this. And my original version had a fine structure in it. But our presidents really weren't comfortable with that because everything else in our policies and handbooks don't have fines behind that. We're not built like a Power Five. That's just not who we are as an organization. But we do have peer review and accountability and self-reporting. So the hiring report, that first prong of the stool, is really the piece where you lay out all your hires for the year and the president's review and decide whether you met the rule or not. And if you don't meet the rule, then you begin the escalation, probably a warning letter, private reprimand, public reprimand, all the way up to fines, maybe a later down the step. But what's interesting about the way we're collecting the data, which is the piece I think I would encourage everyone to do, is at least collect the data, is if you have one school is just missing the Russell Rule every time, that's one issue. If you have 10 schools consistently missing the Russell Rule when they're out to hire, let's say, your second or third assistant golf, tennis, rowing coach, now you're talking about a regional or pipeline problem. You know, if they're meeting the rule on all the other hires, but in maybe this one sport or maybe this one lane, we're all having trouble, then we can program to that issue and program to pipeline and job postings and hiring fairs and that type of thing.
Do you have any suggestions or tips about good strategies to build our pipelines?
In creating pipelines, I mean, it's all about the networking. And I always say make efforts to go into spaces where you're not accustomed to going. I always use the example, if you want to look for a plumber, you go find plumbers, right? You go into spaces, plumbers associations, you do everything in your power to find those plumbers. So I really think that, like in the case of what we're doing here for my organization, is we're connecting with Chamber of Commerce's, we're connecting with grassroots organizations that are focusing on women and ethnic minorities, veterans, persons with disabilities, hidden and physical. We're really just trying to make those connections all across the board to make sure that individuals know that we are looking. We do want to create diverse recruiting strategies. We want to make sure that we're taking everyone into consideration, not just the ones that we know. We're not putting our biases in the way, and then just holding ourselves accountable. So I really feel that as long as your staff, we were asked that question, as long as your staff and colleagues are staying open to receiving information from all over, that's great. And a way is starting with MOA and starting with women leaders in college sports. That's a great start. But also the NCAA staff has great resources as well.
Well, thank you. And I know I speak for everyone. We really appreciate all the information that you shared. It's great to see you. And now I'm going to transition to the second part of the program that focuses on hiring platforms, which includes the NCAA Leadership Development's Leadership Collective platform and Women Leaders in College Sports Career Connect. So we're joined today by three additional panelists, starting with Kara Hess, who joined Women Leaders in College Sports in October of 2018 as the manager of Leadership and Education. CAREC organizes, facilitates, and conducts all education and leadership programming, including Women Coaches Next Up, Learn and Lifts, live chats, and several others. And prior to Women Leaders, she was the manager of education at the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. So welcome to her. Next, we have our very own Dee Dee Merritt, who serves as the director of NCAA Leadership Development. And here at the national office, she administers the NCAA Pathway Program, the Champion Forum for Football and Basketball, and the Dr. Charles Whitcomb Leadership Institute, amongst many other things in programming. And additionally, she led the creation of the NCAA Leadership Collective and knows it top to bottom. So it's good to have her here. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Patty Phillips. So everyone knows Patty, the CEO of Women Leaders in College Sports. Under Patty's leadership, the organization has tripled its growth in membership and has grown the national convention attendance by 250% and expanded its membership to include men and women from professional sports leagues and corporations. Patty is a well-known keynote speaker on topics such as leadership, teamwork, and culture. So welcome to everybody. And I'm going to jump right into the questions to make sure everyone has enough time. But Dee Dee, tell us about the Leadership Collective and how will it assist in diverse hiring? How does it work and who can access it?
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Greg. I will share my screen. Good afternoon, everyone. Dee Dee Merritt here, Director of Leadership Development at the NCAA. Happy to be with you all. And just want to give you just a brief snapshot of our new platform, which is the Leadership Collective. We hope that this platform will be a complementary resource to all of the other great work that our colleagues in the membership, as well as organizations such as our passion partners with Women Leaders in College Sports and We Coach, do, so that we can all do our part to increase the numbers of ethnic minorities and women in positions of leadership and in positions as a whole, so that our student athletes can see themselves in those who coach, teach, and lead them. At Leadership Development, that is our goal. We serve the student athletes two ways, one directly through their direct programming with us, and then indirectly through those who coach, teach, and lead them, with the focus on diversity and inclusion, which is a core focus of ours. And we're really happy to have been recognized for the second year in a row by Tides with an A+ for our programming. Our program impact, we really want to make sure that our programs are preparatory, applicable, and relevant. And the numbers you see here definitely reflect that. And we're really happy about the fact that we've been able to steadily increase the number of ethnic minorities in our programs, in particular, ethnic minority student athletes. So Leadership Collective, what is it? So the Leadership Collective is a platform that houses the profile of ethnic minority administrators and coaches. It has customizable capabilities to it so that people can create in-depth profiles so that searchers and other users get the opportunity to get a really good look at who our candidates are in this platform, who our individuals are in this platform. And it can be used for a wide variety of ways to diversify a candidate list. And the other way that we think about it is through committee research, as well as looking for subject matter experts for keynote addresses. It really gives you the opportunity to get to know the individuals electronically through this platform. So I'm going to exit out of here very quickly and show you all what a platform, what a profile looks like. So here is the Leadership Collective platform. What you will see is, again, the first tab is our member profile tab. It's a tab that has the information about the profile user, but the unique piece of that is that you also get to see their essay questions, 6 questions that we have developed and worked with different industry professionals to create, that really gives you the opportunity to get a really good in-depth view of the individual, what their leadership philosophy is, how they support student athletes, what makes them an effective leader, and so on. And so we feel like these questions really give that in-depth look into the individuals on this profile. Second one is our job experience. We have a series of questions that correlate with the searcher side of the platform that allows for searchers, for folks on campuses to be able to go in and conduct really in-depth searches based on exactly what it is they may be looking for. They may be looking for a person who has specific sports supervision experience, specific oversight of different areas, maybe even looking for someone who has worked in a specific region or who is interested in coming to their specific part of the country. They can perform those searches and get very in depth with them. We also have their job history listed here. They also do have the opportunity, the searchers, to be able to download the resumes of the users as well on that first tab. Education and professional development is the third tab, and this tab allows our profile users to list their education levels completed, as well as notable professional development opportunities that they have been involved in. And then finally, the last tab is another look inside of the person who has a profile on the Leadership Collective, and that's videos and press. So our users get the opportunity to upload relevant videos and press of themselves so that those who are searching through the profile can click on and read a story about them or look at a video of an interview that they may have done and really get the opportunity to get to know the user, the profile user here on the platform. We look at all of these things, again, as being complementary to all of the work that is being done here in this space along with everyone else. I wanted to give you all a quick look at what it looks like from the searcher side. So on the searcher side, a user will log in, and what they'll be able to do, again, is to be able to look at this and click and make a very customized, in-depth search to be able to find those individuals that have the particular skill sets, attributes, qualities, experiences that they are looking for. And so this is an area where this whole platform really is going to be a living platform, and we will add, subtract, change as the industry dictates. But the great part about it is that you users will be able to go in and get a really, really good look at the individuals who have profiles on this platform and be able to use that to start having more diverse candidate lists, to be able to reach out and make contact for other opportunities as well. So we're really excited about that. Just to give you an update on the rollout, we have a phased rollout with this program. Currently, the platform is being populated with senior level administrators and coaches. In the summer, we will step down to mid-level administrators and coaches. And then finally, in the fall, the platform will open up to entry-level administrators and coaches. So that, combined with our programming, we feel gives our membership a great opportunity to be able to make the shifts that are needed so that we can really diversify our leadership, our colleagues in the college athletic space. And so with that, Dr. Gregg, I'll turn it back over to you.
Now we're going to go to Patty and Carol, Women Leaders. You have a similar platform, Career Connect. So please tell the audience about your platform and how others can access that one.
Yeah, thank you, Derek and Dee Dee. Great work. I know how many years the collective has been in progress, and same with ours. And they are very similar. I would say, with our Career Connect platform, ours focuses specifically on women and women of color. And so that's the big difference. And ours primarily probably has mostly administrators. There are a few coaches, and that's kind of matches the demographics of our organization. And I'll tell you, as we developed this, and we launched ours in 2019, we have about 1,400 women that have uploaded profiles in our database. And, for years we kept hearing those that wanted to make diverse hires that they couldn't find those people. Like, where are the women? We heard that for over and over. We hear, where are the people of color? So I think, and Dee Dee will say the same thing. We all were like, okay, well, we're going to make sure we create these platforms and have these lists. For years, ours was on an Excel document. And again, since 2019, it's been in a database, and we've seen just amazing results with this. So it's an objective way to go in and find women that fit the criteria that you are using in a job search. So what we're able to do, and Kara will show you more of this in just a minute, and that is we can go in and pull keywords. If you're looking in marketing, if you're looking for senior associate, if you're looking for someone with a certain sport oversight, compliance, we can pull those candidates per those keywords, and we send an Excel document with all the contact information to those requesting it. I will say our Career Connect has a front and a back side, similar again. One is, and we do post jobs. I think someone put the question in, Derek, about where can we post these jobs? Definitely check out our Women Leaders Career Connect if you need to post a job. And if you go on our website, you can find it, because we have over 4,000 members and more than that actually visit our website, since we are connected with many pro leagues now, including the NFL. And we're so excited for China and her role there as well. But a lot of people look at that. So it's a great place if you're looking for women to post jobs on Career Connect. If you are in the industry and you're a member and you reach out and say, hey, China back in the day when she was a senior associate looking for someone, she could have reached out to Women Leaders, say, hey, I just posted this. Can you pull names in this area? And we do that. We are not yet to the point. Our next iteration will be where those posters can go in directly and pull those lists. We're working on some confidentiality pieces with some of the women that are in Career Connect. And we actually have all levels, including our rising stars, but our executive level as well. And those are much more confidential. So we're working through that process right now. But again, you can post jobs. We ask women to upload their profiles. Over 1,400 women have done that now. But Kara, I'm going to let you jump in here and show them a little bit more about what the database looks like, and if they were to upload a profile, what that would look like.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. I'll double down on a couple of things that Patty chatted about, but she was really talking about what it is and how it's used. But I really just want to show you. So before I play this video, understanding that there's two functionalities behind this system, which we were really intentional about when we built this, is the outward facing function for anyone in the industry. So job posters and those seeking jobs. And then on the other end, the internal facing function for women that really are just created their Career Connect profile, and they coincide to build this incredible platform of Career Connect. So let me show this quick video right here. So this, what you'll notice, what you're seeing right now, is what you'll see when you join Career Connect. So anyone in the industry, this is where employers are able to post their jobs, and then the potential candidates can go in and actually apply. And as Patty mentioned, anyone in the industry is able to view this, not just our members, which is incredible, and how we continue to build that pipeline. And this next video, which I think is really important for you all to see, and Dee Dee, I know, mentioned about their profile, how it looks like. Ours is very similar. So what you'll see here is the second function. So this is the internal platform that shows you how you can create your profile in Career Connect. So you, as Patty mentioned, you're able to fill out specifics right here, such as examples such as your professional experience, desired position, even the level that you're seeking for a position. So let's say you're not actively seeking, we can add that in here. But it's really important. In a prime example, if someone reaches out to us, we always just ask, have you posted on our website? And then if a hirer reaches out to us, we can provide them with a list. If they say, hey, we want a Division II athletic director with external experience with over 10 years, we're able to pull that objectively and send that over directly to those hirers. And also this last statement here before I turn it back over to Dr. Gregg is, we currently, as Patty said, over 1,400 members, and it starts down at the internship level all the way up to our ADs. So if you are in the industry and looking to advance, we want to continue to really build the platform and send these qualified candidates over to the hirers.
And Kara, one more thing I want to jump in here. This was mentioned earlier, and that is not only, so we'll go in and we'll pull by keywords, but I thought the great point was made earlier about hiring for attributes and not for skills. So we never, ever send a list to anyone that's asked for a specific without including women of color, which means, so, when we pull the list by words, it's there. And then if there's no women of color, we by hand go back in and we make sure that we pull that they're close enough, right? And so, we're all working on making this a science. And right now it's an art. I mean, I think this is as close as we've gotten to it being objectively a science. There's still a piece of it though. And until we get more women of color in the industry that are in the broad range of these positions, we have to make sure that we go in, and if they're close enough, maybe they don't have all the years of experience, but we're going to go ahead and add them in there. Or maybe, they've done this at another division. We're just going to make sure that the list we send always have women of color represented. But, and again, Dee Dee's done such a great job with the collective, and we're talking about how we can work together more with these two platforms. And I think one of the big differences with ours is that ours is specifically with women. And 90% with administrators. There's a few coaches in it, but ultimately ours is with administrators at all levels.
Thank you for that great information in the platforms. I hope everyone will be able to access those and make sure that we spread the word about those as well. And the next question ties really into our earlier conversation on culture. And it is, how will your platforms impact diverse hiring and culture? And we'll start with Dee Dee, and then we'll go to Patty, and then Kara.
Thank you, Dr. Bragg. Sometimes when you look at culture, it obviously has many meanings, but I think we talked about the traditions and processes that go into it. And there's times when, that skews into the lane of, well, this is what we've always done, and this is how we've always done things. And I think that I can speak for Patty and my colleagues over at Women Leaders as well, and saying that we're trying to break through that sort of bad process, and have people to understand that there are competent, wonderful leaders out here that come in all different. And so how do we do that? We do that by getting people to look at things differently. We do that by getting people to understand the different platforms that we have, the different programs that we have. Both Leadership Development and Women Leaders host a plethora of impactful programming that serves to prepare our leaders for not only excellence in their current role, but for that next role, right? So we need people to understand that doing things the same way just doesn't cut it anymore, and that we need to be able to do things differently. So how do we do that? We have to help them. We have to help them by providing this information to them. And so that's why platforms such as Career Connect and Leadership Development are here. Leadership Development is a free platform. It's a service to the membership. It comes from the NCAA, so it's your platform. So the information will be there for you to use. We specifically don't have it tied to a job service or a job board because we want it to be something that is standalone and a complementary resource for you all to be able to use, to research on your own, to serve as a complement to whatever processes you have in regards to hiring within your own athletic departments, be it going with it with campus or going at it with a search firm. We look at this as being a baseline complementary resource for you so that you can educate yourselves on exactly who is out there and for what.
Dee Dee, loved everything you said, especially when you said we both have a plethora of impactful programs. So we're all going to say that 5 times fast because it is so true. And we do a lot together, which is great. One thing I will add, back to culture, and I think China mentioned this as well. What happens, when we are really wanting to change culture and make diverse hires, and this is like diversity and inclusion 101. that we only know what we know. We go to our resources and our people, and most of those times those people look like us. What these two platforms do is they give you a place to go that's different than your people with all the names. And then it's what we say, it's your job to then do the research and find out if these people are a fit. But what we can 100% provide you is a plethora of names of qualified candidates that are freaking ready to roll. They've been through programming and they are ready to go into a department and make a difference. And I think that's what's the importance of these platforms. It gets you out of your circle. And again, we're all doing the best we can to expand those, but then we can go in and objectively see all these people that we don't know yet. And, this industry can be so myopic, and we're trying to break through that, right? We're trying to break out and see the bigger groups out there. And so I think that's the really important part, specifically as it relates back to enhancing culture, which really comes from, more diverse teams.
Yeah, I'll just add in here quick too, Patty, is I think what's great about it is if you select that you're actively seeking for a position, there are times that your name you might even know that it's being passed along, and that's how you get on the hirer's radar. So that's how we continue to diversify those pools, is your name is now, you might not get that position. They might reach out, they might have a call, but it's that next position. Now you're on their radar. Now they're thinking about you, which I think is such a benefit to the platform.
And thank you again for all those great answers. Everything is very informative. And now this one says, when on a hiring committee, how challenging is it to not show favoritism towards a prospective candidate who fits a minority quota?
Well, I can jump in. I definitely would like to share. We're exploring here at the Broncos with so many different ways of creating these committees. So, of course, the expectation, and I even did this at Wyoming, that you must have at least a female and an ethnic minority. Those will identify accordingly on every single committee, search committee that's created. Here at the Broncos, we're exploring committees like that, where they're scoring resumes and interviews based upon minimum and preferred expectations. And then I have my IT colleagues, which are really working on a blind strategy, which I greatly appreciate that, because now they take away the names, they take away universities, they take away anything that could create those biases, and to really evaluate them based upon those skills that they are seeking. And then, of course, when it comes to the interviewing process, then those who identify as a female and an ethnic minority must be on that committee. So so far, everyone has been embracing these different types of policies and expectations that have been in place here. But they're being creative, too, to make sure that those biases are taken away to find the best candidate. And so far, it's been very successful.
Thank you, Dr. Jude. And here's another question. It says, Dee Dee mentioned hiring firms, search firms. How do we make sure they are proactive and committed to identifying qualified candidates from underrepresented groups?
Well, and I think that Patty can jump in on this one as well. With our programs, we have always had connections to search firms through our programs and services that we offer. Number one, on the learning side, educating our participants on search firms and the search firm process. But on the other side, the search firms that are in this space actively reach out to myself and my staff and others. And I know that to be the same on Patty's side as well with women leaders, to ask for participant lists for our particular programs, to call and ask who is up and coming in just general conversation. And so they are working to do their part more so now than previously, but getting into it even more and making sure that they're doing their part to create diverse candidate lists for the institutions and organizations that they serve. So the search firms have been great partners for us in this regard, and we look forward to continuing that work with them.
Yeah, I want to jump in here real quick too as well. Dee Dee, I agree 100%. It's an interesting question, and I do believe, especially in my time here in 11 years, the search firms have come around amazingly well. I do believe they are committed to diverse pools, and I think a lot of hirers on. I would like to challenge, though, hirers at all levels and presidents and chancellors that are on this, and I know, Derek, there's a session later on, because ultimately who is making the final decision? And this is where, what Gloria's doing at the West Coast Conference and the NFL is doing as well. The pools are great. That is step one. And I do think it matters. And the next step is we have got to get to the hirers and the people influencing the hirers that can help so that they're making the right decision. They're going through the unbiased training, that they have people around them that are having these conversations that we're having so they understand what it looks like to make a qualified hire that looks different maybe than what they were expecting. I think that's the next step. We've been talking about diverse pools for a long time, and we need to keep doing that. It's really important. And then the next step is how do we get to the hirers and challenge them to make more diverse hires? And honestly, I think Mark Emmert's done that really well with his senior team, and we've seen that in the time that I've been here. And his senior team has completely changed, and it takes time. But hirers have to make those decisions. So I agree with Dee Dee. We can keep doing a great job and making sure pools are diverse. Search firms are still reaching out. Hirers are reaching out. Now we've got to take that next step and make sure that hirers are making diverse hires.
Hey, Derek, can I just add 20 seconds to what Patty said? Because she really touched on something that I think is special. We're talking about ADs, we're talking about head coaches, right? But what we're not talking about is presidents and chancellors. Not only are they the hirers, they are less diverse than ADs and head coaches. And so when it comes to familiarity, Patty talked about this before. I think Dee Dee mentioned it as well. Folks only know their circles. And if the majority of our presidents and chancellors are white males, we have to find ways to infiltrate those circles for them to be exposed to other individuals. The more minorities, women, and minority women that we have in the president and chancellor seat, the more likely we are to see diverse hires made because they will be comfortable in that space to make that hire. So I just wanted to cap off what Patty said, because I think she touched on something that's really, really important.
And it is, when you look at how the change has to happen, ultimately those are presidents and chancellors, right, that are making those hires. And when we talk to presidents and chancellors, they're getting a lot of pressure from boards, from donors. And so there's a culture behind the scenes at the highest levels that is impacting, and culture below won't change until we get those. There needs to be presidents that are diverse, and then ADs that are diverse, and commissioners that are diverse. When we look what Gloria's doing as a leader, as a diverse leader, look what China's doing as a diverse leader. So we have to have diversity at these levels that then trickles down. And it has to start, honestly, at the very, very top. So thanks for mentioning that.
Well, I'm going to wrap up and just thank all of you. This is such great information. As usual, we run out of time, but I'm getting the signal and the hook now. But again, thank to all the panelists. I think everyone out there, we've gotten great information. We really appreciate your insight.